Ironically, our exploration of anarchism in the United States took us to Cuernavaca, Mexico. Mexico had become the land of exile for many anarchists, among them a remarkable couple, Mollie Steimer and her lifelong companion, Senya Fleshin. Like Emma Goldman, her friend and comrade, Mollie had immigrated to the United States when she was in her early teens.
When I was in Russia and I lived through the pogroms on the Jews, or when I saw the soldiers going to the war, there was war, Russia, Japan. And I saw the soldiers, the peasants going to war and how the Cossacks treated them as if they were cattle. I thought it was because it is Russian Tsarism, brutality of the Tsar. I imagined that in America the people are better, that the people are finer, they have more sentiment, more understanding of liberty and would not mistreat one another. But then when I saw the persecution in the United States during the war, first it began when we had the meetings against the war. Especially the last meeting where Emma and Sasha were arrested. They treated us all, they went with the sticks as if, well, there was no consideration for the human being whatsoever. Then is when I realized that any government, whether it is Tsarist government or American democracy or any liberal regime, those who have power misuse their power against the weaker individual or the masses who are not armed and cannot defend themselves. And I wasn't surprised anymore, no matter what they did. I expected the worst.
Emma Goldman once described Mollie Steimer as having an iron will and a tender heart. At age 20, Mollie was part of a New York anarchist group that published an underground newspaper. In 1918, she and her comrades were arrested for distributing leaflets protesting American intervention in Russia. One of the young anarchists was beaten to death by the police. Mollie and the others were convicted of violating the Espionage Act. At the trial, Mollie's spirited self-defense made headlines.
She declared, "Individual freedom shall prevail in the full sense of the word. To the fulfillment of this idea, I shall devote all my energy, and if necessary, render my life for it." She was sentenced to 15 years at the federal penitentiary in Jefferson City, Missouri, but she was only to serve a fraction of her term.
Finally, in 1923, I was called to the office in Jefferson, Missouri, and told that I am to be deported and that I am to sign these and these papers. I declined. I said, I don't want to be deported. I don't want to be pardoned. You sentenced me. When all political prisoners will be freed, I will be freed. And I went back to my cell. When I was told that the boys are already in Ellis Island and they're only waiting for me and that I should accept, I did not sign the papers in any event, and I said I'm not going to leave because there is a railroad strike. And I'm not going to go on a train that is led by Skips. So I was kept for 10 days longer until the strike was finished. When the strike was finished, they took me, but I never signed my deportation papers. This I never did. Or call them liberation or deportation or whatever it was, I never signed them. My anticipation was that I'm going to a country where there is a revolution, but that the revolution took the wrong road because they have a government, a police regime, and that the anarchists will have to continue the struggle. But there is a revolution, and I went with a certain enthusiasm because there was an uprising against the oppression. That there will be a struggle, there was no doubt in me.
The Russian Revolution of 1917 was a spontaneous uprising of peasants and workers. All across Russia, workers organized factory committees, called Soviets, and popular assemblies in the villages.
Then the Bolsheviks, headed by Lenin, swiftly and ruthlessly imposed one-party rule. They claimed that the success of the revolution depended upon the people's obedience to the single rule of the leaders. The Cheka, the secret police, suppressed all non-Bolshevik factions, including the Russian anarchists. The great anarchist theoretician, Peter Kropotkin, returned from exile hoping to see his ideas of mutual aid put into practice. He died in 1921, disillusioned with the course of the revolution. Ironically, many imprisoned anarchists were permitted to attend his funeral, but it was the death knell for anarchism in Russia, and those lucky enough to escape, like Emma Goldman and Mollie Steimer, reluctantly turned their backs on the country of their birth.